Welcome to the Aegance Offscript Podcast, where we talk to industry leaders who share their stories, insights, and lessons, unfiltered and unscripted. I'm your host, Lawrence, and today I'm joined by Gilles Teuwen, co-founder of Tyto Insights. Now, Tyto operates in the data infrastructure and analytics space with a simple mission: helping organizations turn complex, messy data into clear, actionable insights. And the reason that this is interesting right now is pretty straightforward. Everyone wants AI magic, but most organizations are still fighting with spreadsheets, disconnected systems, and dashboards that disagree with each other. Tyto's point of view is, before the shiny stuff, you need the foundations: governance, clean pipelines, and a source of truth that leadership can actually trust. Gilles, great to have you here.
Super happy to be here.
Amazing. I mean, I think I positioned Tyto to a certain degree, but there's no one better than yourself to give us a little bit more context about the business. Where do you operate? What is exactly that you guys do?
So we started originally a Mauritian branch to be able to reach out throughout Africa, but we found a lot of traction in South Africa specifically. It's where we're all from. It's where we've got a lot of connections. And we found that there are a lot of small to medium businesses that are producing a lot of data. And now all of a sudden with the AI bubble, they want to use that data. And as soon as they start and try to plug it into a tool or try to follow a tutorial or try to hire someone to AIify their business, they fall short because their data isn't quite where it's supposed to be. This isn't only restricted to AI, of course. There's an entire separate branch of people who just want to know what's going on, who say, what is our revenue actually? How do we define revenue? Who are our customers? Have our customers come back to us? And there's all these questions that they start asking, and then they start asking the people who manage their data, if there is any data, and all of a sudden those answers don't pop up. And I think that makes people concerned about their own businesses, and that's where we try to position ourselves to help.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. And so when you're making big calls at Tyto, I mean, what's the sort of core principle that you keep coming back to?
Well, the main thing, and this is how we started the business, and this is what I at least hope we have until we exit the business and beyond, is we will never become out of the box. Our internal motto has always been, we don't fit into your tool, or we don't fit you into our tools. We build tools around you, because tools at the end of the day are these replaceable things that get you to a business outcome. And we're really good at building tools. The three founders were all computer science majors with honors degrees in computer science with a data stream. We know how to make tools. And we all agree at the end of the day that these tools are the means to the end.
In terms of decision making, where are you on your roadmap as a company? Are you still very founder led, or have you handed off some decision making to some of your senior managers?
So at the moment, we are three founders, and we are, up until recently, we were running the business, not the entire business, but large parts of the client-facing business in our heads. We realized that this was probably not the best thing to do. And as soon as we've started making hires, which is amazing that I get to say that, as soon as we started making hires, we sort of had to realize we need to start handing things off. So we're actually busy in that process and, setting up the processes of how do you hand something off? What level do you get involved? How supervisory are you? How involved are you in the day-to-day business operations? Because from the beginning, we were all developers in the business. Every single one of us wrote lines of code to present to clients. And we've sort of slowly, in separate ways, started jumping above that. And now, for example, I'm on the more technical side. I supervise a lot of the people writing code. I write some myself as well, but yesterday I didn't touch a code editor. Mark used to develop a lot on the API side, but now he's gone into networking and client relations and client retention. Inga is also writes a lot of code and writes very good code, but now there's a lot of operations that she started to manage. So we're all taking sort of that one step up, and there's this really cool thing that's happening where a lot of people talk about climbing the corporate ladder, but it almost feels like we're building the corporate ladder underneath ourselves, which is a really strange feeling because you're going up, but you're not climbing anything.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I would imagine it must be quite an uncomfortable feeling inside. Essentially you're handing over your baby. As you say, all three of you have been there from the start. You've essentially grown it to a point now where you can scale the team internally because there is a real need from the market for you to be able to deliver to. But ceding over responsibilities for something that you've essentially grown from day dot must be a big challenge internally.
Yeah, no, I think each of us are handling it in a different way. And I think we're all really trying to cling to control of the things that we were good at. But we've all realized now you need to get better at other things to make people good at what you were good at. I think that's one of the core things that we decided early on, is that none of us want to be irreplaceable. Whenever something comes up or someone isn't available, it shouldn't grind the business to a halt. So I think we've designed it with that in mind, and that's probably made it a lot easier to hand over and to let go.
Yeah, I think that's a very smart approach. So you position yourself as an extension of a client's team, sort of a data science department without the overheads. I mean, what does great look like when that relationship is working properly?
I think the key word there is seamless. We very often end up in the offices of our clients, and they will very often walk out of their office, walk into where we're say, hey, we've got this question about our data, as if we are part of their core business. And I think some clients, and this is probably the great part, some clients really do see us as part of their business, in the sense that, we get paid a bonus, for example, for just as if we were a member of staff, because we helped them grow so well. So I think that's the level that I would call great, is that how, into the business we are, that we can start telling them things about their business that they didn't know, and we are seen as part of their business, even though on paper we aren't.
On the flip side of what great looks like, what would you say are the reasons when the relationship starts to get a little bit messy? I mean, is it an expectations thing? Is it a speed? Is it who owns what? Is it stakeholder alignment? Like, what are some of the common challenges that you come across?
I think expectation is a big one. There are a lot of people, especially in this day and age of AI, that think you're computer people, use AI to make magic happen, do it now. And that's just unfortunately not how it works. And I think there is a big issue these days with a lot of people peddling that kind of service, where I'll use AI to fix everything, pay me this much, which is actually quite a nominal amount. But if they can peddle that to enough people, then it starts to become quite substantial. And that really breaks down client relationships in general. But for us specifically, that mismatch of expectations can hurt us. Another thing is when we disagree on core values and core principles, like how important is your data? There are businesses who don't think that their data is that important, and they're just getting people in to tick that box. And then we'll come to them and say, historically speaking, your stats don't line up. We need to do something about this. Because you can't get anything accurate, garbage in, garbage out. You can't get anything accurate if your inputs aren't accurate. And they'll say, yeah, that's not really super important to us right now. That's when that relationship starts to break down, because this is the service we provide, and we thought we were on the same page. But it turns out there's now this misalignment of how important this thing is that we want to provide and how important you perceive it. And I think that's maybe a general statement on how most relationships break down, is this mismatch of perceived importance from either side.
Yeah, I mean, that's a super interesting point, and I'd be quite interested to understand your take on, but most companies say that they are data-driven. But what is the real difference between a company that says it is and one that's genuinely operating that way?
So as a start, and I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I don't like the term data-driven. I think that puts way too much power in the hands of the data and takes a lot of power out of the hands of the people who are actually making the decisions. I really prefer the term data-informed. And what that looks like to be data-informed is we need to make some decision at some point. This is the start of it, is we need to make some decision at some point. Instead of all getting around the table and shooting ideas off of each other, we can still do that. But before we do that, we are going to look at some measurement, something objective, some pure facts, pure numbers that we know are accurate and that we trust. And then once we've all got that context, we're going to bounce ideas off of each other. And then what is first prize is, what impact do we want this to have on those numbers? Can we measure that in a few months? So that's the beginning stage. The next stage, which I think is even more fantastic, is something's popped up in the data. This is going to start a discussion, and then we're going to go look at the data again. And then we're going to make decisions, and then we're going to see what we want the data to look like at the end. So instead of just starting as a brainchild of someone, it starts from the data. Then we use the data, and then we know what we want the data to look like. So that's data informed. And I think data driven, like I said, puts too much power on that data, because the data will change as you as a person make decisions, and you as the business leaders make decisions. The data won't just change because you can see it now.
Yeah, I like that. And I like the use of the term data informed. I think it certainly makes sense. What would you say are the non-negotiables to start becoming more data informed?
So the first non-negotiable, and I might start listing off things that seem obvious here, is keep your data. And keep it in a reasonable way. There are a lot of people who generate the data today and then don't care about it tomorrow. So if you're not keeping your data, if you're not doing anything with it, then no chance of being data informed. So that's number one, caring about it enough to keep it. The next one is caring enough that it's accurate. Just because we're keeping this stuff doesn't necessarily mean it's accurate. There are millions of little business processes and tweaks that people make within the business that end up making the data look horrible. I did this day because the system didn't want to let me in, but it did work if I did this, and I swapped the comma here. And there's a whole bunch of things that become quite messy and dirty. And if you don't care about keeping that accurate, being data informed, impossible, because you don't have good data. Thereafter, it's really deciding to invest in it. It's not something that will just happen. Keeping the data in a warehouse or in a database doesn't happen overnight like magic. You need some people who know what they're doing, who can design the schemas, and I'm going to try to steer away from too much technical language. But there are people who study for a while in order to design these things such that they scale well, such that they can fit everything you need to fit, such that they fit your requirements and meet your immediate needs and perhaps even future needs. And that is an investment. Unfortunately, it doesn't matter. You don't get something for nothing. There's no free lunch. It will take time to set that up, to put that in place, and then to put systems in place that keep that clean and keep putting things in. And then finally, at the end, you want some people who know what they're doing as far as presenting data goes. There's 1,000,001 ways to present data wrong and badly. I can list off some common ones like scaling the axes wrong, for example, starting at 90%, ending at 100%, and then these tiny differences look huge. That's not something you're supposed to do. So all the way from keeping the data to making it accurate to investing in a place to store it where everyone agrees on it to presenting it properly. That's sort of the pipeline that I would follow to help someone become data informed at the end of the day. And then once you can see it, build it into your processes, of course. Look at it before the meeting so that define goals around it. We want this revenue chart to look like this. We want our sales to look like that. We want our customers to grow by this much, and we will measure it by looking at this chart in 3 months' time.
Yeah, I mean, I've spent majority of my professional career in business development and sales environments where data is essentially your lifeblood. It needs to be kept very accurate so that when you are reaching out to someone, there's a clear context and a clear history to the conversation. So I've learned through my experience to keep data accurate, but I've often felt like there's a disconnect between sort of the soldiers on the ground keeping the data accurate and the powers that be, sitting around the board table.
It depends where we go. Some places yes, and some places no. But the main tool that we found, and I think this is what in the places where that's not the case, this tool exists. And in the places where that's not the case, the tool doesn't. And that's some shared place that is a single source of truth. We, at one of our main clients, call it a data warehouse, or not a data warehouse, a data mart, because it's not quite at the scale of a warehouse, but it's where everything goes and is verified and is trusted. And then things come out of that can then be verified and trusted, with a core tenant is that never changes. Once it's in that warehouse, that is when it is correct. It is not allowed to change when it comes out. The only time it can change is before it goes in. And that's sort of that mediator between the foot soldiers on the ground who are producing the data and getting it in and making sure it's accurate, and then the people who are using that to make decisions. That is the one-stop shop for we need to put data in and we need to get data out and insights out. Some core place where we can all decide this is the real place, this is the truth.
I strongly believe that your data foundation needs to be in place before AI strategies can be implemented. And if the foundation isn't there, the strategy will fall short. When a leadership team approaches you guys and they say, okay, we want AI, what are some of the uncomfortable truths that you need to surface before you can move forward with them?
And this, I don't want to be too polarizing here, but one of the first questions we ask is do you use spreadsheets as a database? If your entire business is operating off of Excel spreadsheets or Google Sheets, then that's already when we know it's going to be a bit of a long trudge. It's definitely doable, totally possible, but then we have to have that uncomfortable conversation of, hey guys, this is a really uncontrolled way of storing data and of analyzing data. Things can go very wrong here. We have to move you first, before we can even look at AI, we have to move this into a more structured place. That's a pretty uncomfortable conversation. Because we want AI, yes, but you're missing all the middle parts to AI, which I feel is something that people are becoming more open to as this conversation emerges. And I'm very happy to be contributing to it now. Another uncomfortable conversation that we often have is, you want AI and that's great. You think we're going to outsource everything to AI ourselves to build you up this massive AI pipeline, and the AI will make the AI and everything will be fine, and you're just paying us as supervisors to supervise some AI. Unfortunately, not the case, at least yet, maybe one day. And there have been some places where AI has been fantastically useful in our day-to-day stuff. But when you're getting us in, you aren't, it's very easy to see yourself as paying for the tool that pops out. But that's not at all what's happening. You're paying for the expertise that we've all developed over years, and the brains that we've all got in our heads to dive into your problem domain, see all the edge cases and the complex things, scaffold an architecture that's going to do well, and that's going to scale properly for you, use our knowledge about the computer science principles and all that fun stuff in order to actually build you this tool. You're not just paying for the tool, you're paying for everything before that. The BA, the analysis, the defining your needs, et cetera, and it's always a really uncomfortable conversation, at least for me. I think we've identified that it's hard for me, so we've gotten some people who are much better at it, but it's tough for me to say, listen, what you think this is going to cost, it's not going to cost, because you've got a bit of a misaligned expectation here. It's going to be more than that, and I hate doing that because I love my job, and at some point when I have to say, no, this is such a cool project, we'll do it at a discount, everyone has to tell me no, bad. That's not how we run a business, but that's never been me. I've always been the sort of, this is a cool thing, I want to do it. And we need that, but if you let me run a business, I'll run a charity by myself.
I mean, you raised such an interesting point, because it's an uncomfortable truth that I've also had to uncover to prospects. As soon as you have explained the scope of the project, they obviously get quite excited at the potential of it. But then you put the commercial proposal on the table, and suddenly you can feel the atmosphere in the room kind of drop down a little bit.
Drains the light from everyone's face.
Yeah, and that's just the reality. It's at no point, I think, is anyone trying to sort of take the mickey out of anyone. But that is, as you say, there is so much work and so much expertise that goes into building that wonderful end goal that we've been speaking about. And this is genuinely what it's going to cost you. And I find that in the South African market in particular, there is a bit of a disconnect in terms of expectations versus what it's going to cost to get you there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you talk about the expertise. And I think clients these days have become really good at building prototypes for themselves. AI, I don't want to do too much advertising for it, but there are a lot of AI tools that let you pop in some prompts and it pops out something that looks like a functional app. And you feel like you're 80% of the way there, and I just need some experts to come touch it up. And if this took me 20 minutes, how on earth have you quoted me for 5 months of work? That doesn't make sense. And if I didn't know what was going into that 5 months of work, I'd agree with them. But there is so much to it that isn't just the code. And on top of it, the quality of code that's produced is what it's trained on. and the open source things that it's trained on isn't always fantastic. And you need someone who knows what they're doing to look at that and say, no, that's going to break in this scenario. Let's fix it. So we do use it, but we very much use it as the foundation to start a conversation. We then have the conversation, and then we go fix things up quite properly. Do a good proper job, which is AI assisted 100%, but is not AI driven or AI led.
Yeah, and I think you raised such an interesting point there. Again, a couple of conversations that I've had in the last 7 or 8 months, dealing specifically with clients who are building their own systems or their own apps using the Lovables of the world. The reality with what gets output from those is, yes, it's amazing. As you say, in 20 minutes, you've got what you're looking for. But whether that can withstand scrutiny and whether it can scale, I think that's the, when big numbers start to move through it, I think that's where it generally falls short.
Absolutely. We actually had a project where that happened. We were working on one of our bigger clients, and we had sort of prototyped and mocked up a lovely front end for them, and we put some mock data through it to talk to them about how nice it was, and this is how it'll look, and this is what the flow will be. Are you happy with that? And they were, and we said, we haven't optimized this right now, but let's bring in all their legacy data and let's see what happens. And it was a nightmare. Everything super slow. Things overflow. On the front end, that's what the user sees as a critical bug. But on the back end, things were dying, queries were timing out. It was a scary thing. And we, of course, being in the industry, knew how to fix it. Throw an index on that table, split this out so we don't have to select it all, et cetera, do paginated requests, so on and so forth. There's a whole bunch of techniques that exist, and I'm listing some of the simpler ones. But without that know-how, you will get to that point and you will be stuck. That's the unfortunate reality. And in that, I unfortunately see an opportunity. I never wish ill upon people, but there are people who will build this thing, try ship it, and then it will break at a certain level because they don't quite have the know-how on the best principles. And then companies who do will have a massive opportunity to sort of pick up those scraps. I think I've already seen people advertising themselves as vibe code cleanup, which is, I think, a great niche that's evolving.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. So, Gilles, if we look at your current customers, and maybe let's dive into who are your best fit clients, and do they share any patterns perhaps?
So we have 2 huge clients at the moment who are taking up a lot of our time, and then we've got a third one who's on the way. And I would argue that third one is actually more our ideal client. And they do share some properties with the rest. And the main property is we care about our data. We believe that this is something we can leverage, but we don't have the know-how to do it. So that's sort of the main thread between all of them. But that last one is really, they're running a sort of networking thing to help connect people. And we're doing some awesome insights on how people talk to each other, who's connecting, how do you connect people through a common person. More than that, I don't think I can say. But I think the big thing is they care about their data. They've been collecting it, so that shows that they care. And now they want to leverage it, and we can help with that. That middle client, the one that I've just told a bit of a story about, they wanted to start completely from scratch. They had a system that was older than me. And from that, they wanted to say, no, the guy who built this is actually retiring. It was an in-house thing. We need to flip, but with the main idea of we want insights out of this at the end of the day. So they cared about their data enough to commission a whole new system to generate it. And then our first client, they had started on a data warehouse, which was a bit of a mess. And they said, no, this is an important thing. So let us, get some people in to fix this. And that's actually how the whole Tyto thing started. It's fantastic, meet cute, if anyone wants to hit me on that one. But I think the common thread between all of those is they cared enough about their data to get people in to make it better. No matter what stage of the data journey they were at. Our first client had a warehouse already that was just not accurate. Our middle client had nothing and was willing to recommission a system. And our third huge client was sort of in that middle space where they'd collected it but didn't know what to do with it now. So any stage of the journey is where we love to pick people up. That's not an issue. The main fit for a client is we have data or we want data and we want to do something with it. We see a business opportunity. And sometimes at the end of the day, we even see a business opportunity with our client once we can analyze their data and say, hey, do you know who this might be useful for this sector of the world? Let's partner up and bring it to them. So that's people who have the data, want to develop it, and then want to bring it to other people. That's sort of an ideal client.
I think there are probably some full podcast discussions around that middle client that you mentioned, where it's essentially this old system that needed to be rebooted. It must have been quite a mammoth project, but we'll save that for another date.
In about a year in the works.
We're sort of
ending up on a phase 1 very soon, and I'm super excited. They're part of the ones that I'm heading up the project for, and it is so gratifying to, in a year, do what someone could cobble together over 20.
Yeah, amazing. So if we focus a little bit on client acquisition, you scaling the team now, which obviously suggests that you're looking to expand the footprint of the company as well. You basically said that if we're talking tools first, then we're losing. How does that sentiment filter through into how you're structuring sort of those first sales conversations?
Yeah. So I don't know if I've alluded to it earlier, but I'm probably the wrong guy to ask. Sales conversations are not my strong suit. Mark, one of my co-founders, is the real guru there. But I love what he does. He talks about real business problems that we've seen, and we could only get that once we've gotten some experience. So our first few sales meetings were still finding out what people actually needed. But the big one we found is that dashboards disagree. And how that comes about is it's very easy. You start up a business, you buy a subscription to a tool, you use that tool, it generates data, and that's great. But then you have another problem and you think, well, we need another tool. And right there, that's where the alarm bells go off, because how does this tool talk to your first tool? So that's the main thing. And then, you get a third tool and a fourth tool, etc. But that's the main thing that we talk about in our client conversations is you guys might be generating all this data. You've got a whole bunch of tools, and that's great. And I'm sure you're happy with the tools, and people have sold you tools, and that's awesome. Hope you're getting a lot of value out of them. Are they talking to each other? Are they in related parts of your business, but not related to one another as tools? That's a red flag. That there's the value where we say, right, we need to sync everything up so that we can all, and this is Mark's favorite line, and I love it too. He asked one person, how many customers do you have? What is a customer? And he asked the other person, how many customers do you have? What is a customer? And the numbers are often quite different, and the definitions are often quite different. And that's exactly how we position the outcome and the value. Not quite a tool, but to say, you guys are running a business, but you don't know who your customers are, or don't know what a customer even is. We can help with that. We can make the central place, and that's where the data warehouse, the data mart that I've chatted about, that single source of truth comes into play. We can build that for you so that when you want to know how many customers you have, first you ask, what is a customer? That we know. Then we can tell you exactly how many you have. And the number is what a lot of people see as the outcome. But there's a sort of sneaky thing in there where we've actually fixed the definition underneath that. So that's how I talk about the client acquisition sales calls. Again, I'm not the guy. Mark is the one who has the silver tongue.
Yeah, I mean, as you grow, I'd be interested to understand, and I'm sure that you and your co-founders have, but have you discussed, as you scale, things get busier. Where's your and your co-founders' heads at in terms of protecting quality and consistency?
That is, I think, number one on our list. We are all, I'd like to say, perfectionists to a large extent. It's actually the real struggle has been for us to downscale the quality. I don't want to say downscale the quality, of course, but to not be perfect all the time in favor of communicating with the client better. Because you might be working on the wrong thing and making it perfect. So rather get something 50-50 out there, let them talk about it, have something in front. It's a very agile approach in the dev world. I'm not going to say we do agile perfectly and 100%, but we've taken a lot of principles that we like from it, scaled back the quality to have those conversations, and then generated something of high quality. Once we've had the conversation, we all know what we want. And getting to that high quality involves some processes that we're busy putting into place now. We were all perfectionists. We would talk to each other. Is this perfect? Not yet. Okay, let's build it there. And that's something that we could easily control when we were 3 people sitting in a room developing together. But as we bring more people on, of course, that becomes tougher, and we need processes and we need reviews. And from that, I'm doing a lot of code reviews these days just to make sure that everything is up to standard. But what's been the biggest help there, and I very infrequently have to send work back, is that we are really selective in our hiring. Like, our hiring process is basically, we were quite involved in the University of Pretoria. We were all assistant lecturers for a while. Before that, we were tutors. Before that, we were very friendly with the lecturers. Our recruitment strategy has basically been snipe the top guys. There are companies that go in with at a project day and give a guest lecture, and then what I like to call the shotgun approach, where we're going to hire a bunch of you and hopefully a few turn out well, which you need to do at a certain size of business. We are not that size of business. I think the term is headhunt, but I prefer, instead of the shotgun approach, we take a sniper approach, where we say, you are good. I like the way you think. You will fit into our company culture. Come for effectively a quick interview. That's been really important to us. We do capstone projects with the universities, which is great. So the University of Pretoria has an end of year project where you as a business get to put forward a project, a team applies for that project, and then it's almost an extended hiring process, really. And we love to get top teams in there and to assess people there, and we might take one of them. From having a relationship with the university, from continuing to guest lecture sometimes, the Tyto name is quite well known there. So a lot of the top candidates end up applying for our projects where we can suss them out. At the moment, we've actually got a few contractors on who really impressed us as second years. And we're busy developing them as talents to sort of grow the pool, but it's really selective. And I think the fact that you can trust anyone you're working with to be as competent as you are has been a massive thing for keeping our quality high, because these people keep the same standard that we've had. And that's going to be a very scary thing once we are large enough that we can't handpick people. That's something that I'm going to say a little bit worried for.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very sound approach. It's obviously you hire the best to be able to put out the best, right? And it's probably a good problem to have that and even better that you're aware of the fact that when we are so big that we can't take that sniper approach. But I suppose that's a bridge you'll have to cross one day.
It also depends where the business goes. We've had a lot of conversations about providing services and providing really good services, and using that to allow us to pivot into products. I know I did talk about us not being tools first, but we have identified some gaps where we don't necessarily build tools for clients, but we build tools for people building tools. And again, I'll go back to part of that ideal client profile is people who see value in their data, and we see value in their data, and they need the technical help to capitalize on that. So once we bring clients to a certain point, it's great to have some sort of small subsection of the team that's almost thinking about productization with our existing clients. And if that model pays off, which I'm really hoping it does, and which we've done a lot of chats in the boardroom about, then I don't think we'll get to the point where we are managing 40, 50, 60 people as a massive company. So that, I don't know, that's how I'm putting the fears off myself.
Gotcha.
But after 2 years, from what we started to what we are now, it's changed entirely. So I'm not daft enough to think that exactly what I picture now is going to be like that in however many years' time.
Sure. I mean, it's an exciting space though, right? To have seen the growth that you've seen, and you've obviously shown that you guys as a team are agile enough to be able to figure out, the future. What's happening in the market right now that you and the team are sort of keeping your fingers on the pulse of?
So a lot of it is that sort of people getting on the data train. A lot of it is AI saturation is happening. In that we need to convince clients to help us out, not to help us out, to trust us, to trust us to help them out, actually. And then towards the end of that is the opportunity that I was talking about with this whole vibe code cleanup thing that's happening. A lot of these people who have peddled vibe coded applications sort of disappear and fly by night. And now there are people stuck with solutions that don't work. They might have worked fine for the first few months. All of a sudden, they don't work. And now there's a huge gap, I think, in cleaning that up and in helping these people because they do need the product. They wouldn't have commissioned it if they didn't need it, but they also need it to work. So they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. And I think a lot of people are going to end up capitalizing on that.
Yeah. And when you and your co-founders think about competition, what do you feel that you're competing against? Are there other firms out there, internal teams, tools, inertia? Like where's the competition at right now?
So I think we've done something clever, I'd like to hope, in that we've positioned ourselves below the AI bubble, if that makes sense. A lot of people, the competition in the AI space and will AIify your business is high. And we've identified that in order to do that properly, you need proper data. And that puts us that one step below it, which I think data will always be important. And all applications have dealt with data from the past to the present. So we found it quite stable there. The competition we've got is smart people who are doing the same, pretty much. We're not, I'm not going to delude myself and think we're competing with the Googles and the Amazons and the AWSs and all those people who have whole departments to do AI and whatnot. But they are providing tools. And we are providing everything that leads up to the tools. So from that, I haven't found many people who are doing exactly what we are doing and exactly the way we're doing it. There are people who claim to be cleaning up data, but it's often an auxiliary service to something else. And I think we have positioned ourselves well in that we do the data, and then we form strategic partnerships with people who do the things on top. Because cleaning up the data is not the sexy work. So I think that's why we haven't found too much direct competition in our current niche. I say that Mark will have a better finger on the pulse there. He is strategy. We've got someone BA now who is much more strategic than I am. I'd like to preface to everyone listening to the podcast that I am Mr. Tech Man. My home is routing functions and speeding things up from milliseconds to nanoseconds. That's where I find my joy. So might not be the best person to ask there.
Gotcha. You're clearly in a very exciting space as a company. What would you say is working really well within the company right now?
I think what's working fantastically is the fact that we are people. I know that sounds strange, but the IT space is very much not people. It's I use this website to get this outcome, or I get this consultant who comes in, doesn't talk to me, or ask me what our problem is. I give him a sentence and then he goes and does his thing. What's working really well is that we're people to our clients. Like I have a great working relationship with one of the heads of our big clients. Mark has a great working relationship with another one, and we're busy building an awesome relationship with that third as our big clients. We've got some smaller ones, but those are the main ones I like to touch on. And we're people to each other, I think is also really important. The three of us as founders came in as friends, and we've drawn a great line between business partners and friends. But at the end of the day, we're still friends. It's great. On a Tuesday night, they've got a quiz night going on. Let's all go together and have a laugh. And then let's invite some of the employees. And now we're friends in that sense. And being so tight-knit, living in each other's heads to an extent, I think has allowed us to grow as fast as we have. And it's working really well that we are all finger on the pulse, ear to the ground, both with the business and with each other. Like my co-founders are getting married, soon. It's a fantastic thing. And that's worked well. And I think we're going to struggle a bit in setting up the processes that take over from that being in each other's heads, ear to the ground, because that's allowed us to scale to where we are. And with the number of employees we have, it still works quite well. But the bigger you get, the less possible that is. And the less likely it is that everyone's just going to like each other as people right off the bat. We're going to try our best with our, sniper approach to hiring. But I think we couldn't have gotten where we are without being so tight-knit, within the group and with our clients.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that makes complete sense. And certainly an admirable quality of any business is the fact that the human connection, the human element is core to what they believe.
And that's why I think AI businesses will go nowhere fast. As soon as I see an AI bot somewhere, I don't want to talk. I don't want to engage. I want to talk to a person. I want them to understand how I'm feeling about my problem. I want them to sympathize with my issues, and I want them to share my successes. And I don't think an AI bot will ever do that properly.
No, certainly not. And Gilles, also on the flip side of my coin, asked you what's working really well. What would you say is not working well right now? What areas of the business require a bit of attention? Where are the bottlenecks? Where are the frustrations?
Something we are actively working on, but it was a bottleneck and has been a bottleneck, is our processes. We did not come in as business majors. We came in as computer science people who wanted to build cool stuff. And that means that what hasn't worked well is our quoting. And I'll be the first to raise my hand and say my bad, because I have underquoted horribly before. I think I could bang this out in an hour. So why are we charging them for more than an hour? Well, no, there's a whole lot of research and stuff that goes into it. Yeah, but I can probably do the core work that they're paying for in an hour. So let's charge them for that. No, that we can't run a business that way. So that hasn't been working. We've gotten someone in to fix that. We've gotten a great BA who has studied this and knows how to cost things and knows how to do this is how much dev hours are, this is how we run a markup on that, etc., etc. But that has been the core problem, is that we haven't been, for a lack of a better term, businessy enough with regards to this. And I understand why, and I understand the factors, but I also understand that it's something we need to fix and that we are fixing.
And when you look ahead, let's say in the next 12 to 18 months, what does winning actually mean for yourself and for Tyto?
So we would love to keep turning profit. That's something we have been doing, even with my horrible quoting and pricing. So I would love to keep doing that. I wouldn't call that a win. I'd call that breaking even, because that's where we were last year and that's where I'd like to be this year. What I really want from my side, and we've had some strategic meetings, but I'm going to take this opportunity to champion my side of it, is I really want to dig deeper into the niches we're currently in. With those 3 main clients, I think there's a lot of potential there. And as much as I'm super happy to take on new clients, and anyone who feels they need data can really come to us, I think that the niches that we are in are really deep. They're not super wide. They might be narrow, but they're super deep niches. And in order to position ourselves properly as experts in those niches, I think would be success to us. To get our name out there within those spaces is really what I'm looking forward to this year.
Yeah, well, good luck with that. And thank you so much for making the time to join us on the podcast today. If our listeners and viewers want to connect with yourself and the team at Tyto, where's the best place for them to do that?
So LinkedIn, that's always a great one. Mark monitors that religiously and he posts great posts. I think we've recently had a post about, oh my word, it's 2 years. Since we actually started this thing while we were still studying. So there's that one. That's always great. contact@tyto.africa. That's where you'll reach me personally and some of the other founders as well. And some other people on the team who can sort of start a discussion. But we are people is the main thing I want to get out here. You reach out to us, we as people will probably respond to you. There's no huge process that you have to go to get one of our ears. LinkedIn, the main one. Email us at contact@tyto.africa, and the website. We've got a little form on the website where you can fill in if you don't want to chat to us directly. That's fantastic. If you could do that, then we will absolutely be in touch, because honestly, on a personal developer level, I'm itching for some new project to spec out. So this is a challenge to everyone out there who's listening.
Well, Gilles, thank you so much once again for making the time to join us on the podcast today. It really has been a fascinating conversation looking at Tyto, from its early days, its conception to where it is right now. Very exciting and interesting space as you start to sort of expand and flex internally, and as you say, hunting for that next project. Wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. Really nice to be here. And thank you for your insights. You've asked some great questions, which have made me think a lot about the business and get it down on paper in ways I haven't before.
That's it for today's episode of the Aegance Offscript Podcast. If this conversation sparked something, a thought, a question, or a new way of seeing your own business, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below. We'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.